Japanese have about 10 or 15,000 Japanese managers working in the United States selling their products here, and they all speak English fluently enough to get along. We have a few hundred Americans working in Japan who speak Japanese fluently enough to get along.
We'd like to give you the inaugural Peace Award from the Citizen Peace Building Program, and from henceforward it'll be called the Gorbachev Award. Спасибо. Spent a lot of time working in and studying China. Last week, I was in 2 different foreign countries. I was in Hong Kong and I was in Texas. And I can tell you my brief observation, Hong Kong is doing very well, thank you. The Jockey Club is increasing, the horse racing operation is increasing its revenues dramatically. I heard that directly from the CEO. And I can tell you that the Dallas economy is not doing well because the Cowboys lost Monday night. If there's a difference in language, if someone is speaking Chinese and I'm speaking English, we know we have a problem. Maybe we get an interpreter. Maybe we can speak in a common third language. Maybe we both understand French or something. We can speak in French. Or maybe one of us learns a language. But if there's a problem at the level of language, it tends to be relatively obvious. If you get down to nonverbal behaviors, you all know that there's a lot going on nonverbally. Some researchers think there's more communication happening through the nonverbal channels, things like facial expression, folded arms, how you hold your chin. Most people believe that there's more information flowing on the nonverbal channels than there are in the verbal channels. But most of the nonverbal information is given out and taken in at an unconscious level. And so if there's a difference in nonverbal behaviors, then it can cause all kinds of problems. 2 Americans talk to one another. If you have speaker A and speaker B, one American will start talking, and when he or she stops, the other person will start talking, and when he or she stops, the other person will start talking. So when Americans are talking to each other, there's not much in the way of gaps or overlaps. Okay, so that's the American style of talking. If we go to Japan, speaker A, speaker B, one person talks, stops, the other person starts right away, stops, but then maybe there'll be a 10-second gap where nobody's talking. And so I go to the Japanese executives and I say, there's this gap in your conversation. In fact, I show it to them and I say, what's going on there? And about half the time, the Japanese in our research said, I'm putting pressure on him, I'm giving him the silent treatment, I'm trying to persuade him. So they're using silence as a persuasive tactic about half the time. The other half the time, I ask what's happening, they say, well, nothing's happening, nobody's talking. It's just a gap. Okay, well, it's hard for me to understand as an American because we don't have gaps. I was just in an elevator in Chicago a couple of weeks ago, and my wife and I were there, and there were a couple other people, and one of the women said, I don't like silence as an elevator, so I'm going to talk. We had 20 floors of her talking, which is kind of interesting. It's different. She was an American. The third country we studied was Brazil. Speaker A, speaker B. One person talks, stops. Before he stopped, the other person will start. Before he stopped, the other person will start. You apparently have experienced this. Yes. Now let me tell you, from the American point of view, I'm talking to a Brazilian, and the Brazilian's interrupting me. And that pisses me off. That makes me mad. No, people don't interrupt. I tell my kids, I've raised 4 kids now, and when they were little kids, we say to them, don't interrupt. Don't interrupt. It's a big deal. Don't interrupt. I'm working with a Brazilian executive. He's interrupting me.
And it's bothered me. I'm real conscious of this, so for me it's kind of a fun, entertaining game. But for Americans who aren't familiar with this kind of stuff, it can really, you know, you hear things like, well, the Brazilian made me feel uncomfortable. He seemed so pushy. Why? I don't know. He just seemed pushy. Well, probably it's this different.
East is east and west is west, and never the twain shall meet, till earth and sky stand presently at God's great judgment seat. But there is neither east nor west, border nor breed nor birth, when two strong men stand face to face, though they come from the ends of the earth. Now, I feel funny editing Kipling. I would say two strong people today, but he said two strong men. But the key point in his poem, Kipling is actually quite optimistic when he says that we can solve our problems when people meet face to face. I was in Xi'an a few years ago. My flight was delayed by fog. I was standing in line. I started talking to the fellow in front of me. I asked him what he did, and he told me he was a sales manager for ABB. And he asked me what I did, and I said, well, I teach international business. And he said, John, there's no such thing as international business. There's only interpersonal business. But they basically said the same thing as Kipling. There's only interpersonal business and interpersonal relationships.